Welcome to a new video where we delve into the world of global economics. Today's topic: countries with the highest debt-to-GDP ratio in 2023. But before we dive in, let's talk about what this ratio is all about. Imagine you have a room full of gold, that's your gross domestic product or GDP, the total value of everything produced by all the people and companies in your country. Now, imagine you also have a hefty IOU note, that's your federal debt, the total amount your government owes. The debt-to-GDP ratio is simply how big that IOU note is compared to your room full of gold. A high ratio isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's like a person having a big mortgage. It depends on whether they have the income to handle the payments. Now, with a better understanding of what debt-to-GDP ratio means, we will start the countdown of countries with the highest ratio in 2023, starting from number 20. Kicking off our countdown at number 20 is the Slovak Republic. With a debt-to-GDP ratio of 57% in 2023, this Central European nation is known for its high-income advanced economy. Despite its relatively high debt, the country has maintained a steady economic growth thanks to its robust automobile and electronics industries. Moving on to number 19, we have Israel. This Middle Eastern powerhouse had a debt-to-GDP ratio of 58%. Famous for its technological innovation and entrepreneurial spirit, Israel's economy is resilient, though the country's high defense spending does contribute to its debt. At number 18, we find Iceland with a debt-to-GDP ratio of 61%. Despite the small size of its economy, Iceland has made a remarkable recovery from the 2008 financial crisis, largely through tourism and renewable energy sectors. Coming in at number 17 is Croatia, with a debt-to-GDP ratio of 64%. The country's economy is largely driven by the service sector and tourism, which contribute to its debt. However, Croatia's entry into the European Union has opened up new avenues for economic growth. Lastly, for this segment, we have Germany at number 16. With a debt-to-GDP ratio of 66%, it's surprising to see this economic titan on the list. However, it's worth noting that Germany's strong industrial sector and prudent fiscal policies have kept its ratio relatively low compared to other countries on this list. Moving forward, let's look at the next set of countries on our list. At number 15, we have Slovenia. With a debt-to-GDP ratio of 69% in 2023, this Central European nation is grappling with a considerable debt burden. Despite this, Slovenia maintains a developed economy heavily influenced by the service sector and international trade. Next up, at number 14, we find Finland. Known for its robust welfare state and high standard of living, Finland's debt-to-GDP ratio stood at 74%. This Nordic country's economy is a mix of a welfare state and a modern industrial economy with a focus on high-tech products. Austria, the heart of Europe, lands at number 13. With a debt-to-GDP ratio of 75%, Austria's affluent and well-developed social market economy features a large service sector and a strong industrial sector. Following closely, we have Cyprus at number 12. Despite its small size, Cyprus has a high-income economy, driven by a strong service sector. The island nation's debt-to-GDP ratio was 79% in 2023. Last for this segment, but certainly not least, we have the United Kingdom at number 11. With a debt-to-GDP ratio of 104%, the UK, one of the world's most globalized economies, faces a significant debt challenge. This major player's economy is characterized by its banking, insurance, and business services sectors. As we move up the list, the ratios are getting higher. Let's proceed. Breaking into the top 10, we have Belgium and Canada tied at a 106% debt-to-GDP ratio. Belgium, known for its highly developed and diverse economy, has a high public debt that is partly due to its social security and healthcare systems. Meanwhile, Canada, with its robust market-oriented economy, has seen its debt levels rise due to measures taken to combat the economic effects of the pandemic. Next, we move to sunny Spain, sitting at a debt-to-GDP ratio of 107%. Spain's economy, the fourth largest in the Eurozone, has been on a recovery trajectory since the 2008 financial crisis. However, the high debt levels remain a concern for the country's economic stability. Just a hair's breadth away, we find Portugal with a ratio of 108%. Despite making significant strides in reducing its deficit, the country's high public debt continues to be a significant challenge for its economy. Lastly, we come to France, sitting at the 6th position with a debt-to-GDP ratio of 110%. France, the world's 7th largest economy, has a diverse and developed economic structure. However, its high public debt is a consequence of its extensive welfare system and public sector. Now we're about to step into the top 5. Are you ready? Starting our top 5 countdown is none other than the United States. With a debt-to-GDP ratio of 123%, the U.S. is a powerhouse with its economy being one of the largest in the world. Yet this ratio shows that the country's public debt is larger than its GDP, indicating a significant reliance on borrowing. Next up, we have Italy. This Mediterranean country has a debt-to-GDP ratio of 144%, which is a reflection of its struggle with high public debt and slow economic growth over the years. This ratio places Italy among the countries with the highest public debt in the world. Following Italy is Singapore, an economic giant in Southeast Asia. Despite its small size, Singapore has a high debt-to-GDP ratio of 168%, showing that the city-state is not immune to the global trend of increasing public debt. Just ahead of Singapore is Greece, with an equally high debt-to-GDP ratio of 168%. This ratio is a testament to the country's long-standing economic struggles, which have been exacerbated by austerity measures and economic reforms. And there you have it. Japan tops the list with a staggering 255% debt-to-GDP ratio. Despite being the 3rd largest economy in the world, Japan's high public debt is a result of decades of economic stagnation and deflation. This ratio is the highest in the world, putting Japan in a league of its own when it comes to public debt. That concludes our countdown of the countries with the highest debt-to-GDP ratio in 2023. We've journeyed from the Slovak Republic at number 20 all the way to Japan, leading the pack with a staggering 255%. But as we've explored, understanding this ratio is about more than just the numbers. It's about the context, the economy, and the country's ability to repay its debt. A high debt-to-GDP ratio doesn't necessarily spell disaster. Some countries like Japan and Singapore have managed to sustain high ratios for years, while still maintaining robust economies. Conversely, a low ratio doesn't always mean a thriving economy. It's a delicate balance, a dance of numbers and policies that shapes the economic landscape of nations. If you found this video informative, do give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Thank you for watching.